All right, some more Excel. So this is our second exercise on Excel. I'm going to start off just with some PowerPoint slides to give you an overview of what we're going to do with the data that we have here, and then I'm going to have you run through it. I'll do it in real time with you in a video and make the manipulations yourself. So don't worry about trying to keep up with me right now. I'm just going to give you an overview. Okay, so one of the things that you can do is this thing called drag fill. And that's where if you have a sequence that's started, you can then grab this corner, the lower right-hand corner, and if you pull on that, it'll figure out the sequence. So I do it in several different ways here. So with the ID, I can fill that out with these descriptions of which class they're in, and with formulas as well. So it makes it, after you get used to it, makes it really easy to work quickly. So there I've used that drag fill to fill in some things. Okay, another thing you should be aware of with Excel is in the bottom of the screen on the margin, it'll show you for a given set of numbers that you have highlighted what the average is, what the count is, and what the sum is. So that's really helpful if you're just kind of checking some things or moving around quickly. You don't have to stop and write formulas. You can just glance down below and see what, for the area that you have highlighted, what's going on. So I call that just dynamic statistics. It makes it as you go. Oftentimes, of course, we'll want to calculate things that are stable and reside in a certain cell. So you can calculate things like the mean, standard deviation, and I'm not showing it here, but you can easily count how many observations you have. And you can also work certain formulas like correlation, and correlation takes two ranges or two arrays of data and determines if there's a pattern between those. And then also you can do graphing really easily, and I have that here for correlation. Okay, you can also add in these little tab things which enable you to filter and sort. So it lets you look at just part of your data or reorganize the how the data is sorted. So if I wanted to sort by gender, I can do that, or if I want to sort by what class somebody's in, or sort by test score, there's a sorting function you can do just on your own. But once you've established these data filters, it's just any given column you can just click on, it'll sort automatically. So it's faster. You can also selectively replace things. So if you highlight a range and you say, I want to replace, say, the ones with females and 2 with males and maybe 3 is non-binary, you can do that. And the nice thing about it is because you're defining a certain selection, it's only transforming those things within that selection. Another wonderful tool for visualizing what's going on is conditional formatting. So I set up a rule here that anybody that scored below 60, their cell is going to highlight in a certain kind of way. You can specify how it highlights, but it lets you check and see if certain numbers are jumping out at you. Okay, and then I don't think I have you do this in the other thing, but just recognize in workbooks, this is an Excel workbook, there are different sheets within that notebook. So lots of times if I have a project, I might have the raw data in one sheet, clean data in another sheet, and some process notes in another sheet. And then you can reorganize these, and you can even make a table of contents of what your different sheets are. So it's a really powerful tool for just organizing information. All right, I think that's it for the intro here, and then I'm going to have you work step by step to do some of this stuff with you. All right, we have the data set that we're going to work on together here. So first thing I want to have you do with me is the drag and fill. So I'm going to highlight these 2 cells, select them, and then I'm going to grab this lower right hand corner and I'm going to pull down. And it's not perfect, but there's some artificial intelligence, some AI there where it's going to try to figure out what you want. And if you have a pattern established like 1, 2, it'll try to follow that. Okay, and then so if everyone in this first set here is in class A and everyone down here is in class B, I can do that same thing. Just grab that and pull it. And then going to jump ahead just for a second and show you, well, I'll show you in a second when I do the below. I can drag formulas too with when I get those created. Okay, just a few other things to realize, some helpful tips. If you want to know quickly how many people you have, if I highlight that range, I can come down here and I can see it says average 1.75, count is 12, and the sum is 21. So whatever cells you highlight, it's automatically giving you that information down here, which is pretty handy. Okay, so that's going on. Let's talk about some of the basic functions you can do. So I can come up here and type in, let's do it over here. I'm going to say mean and standard deviation and maybe n. And I can create formulas for each one of these. So let's do a mean here for the test. So I'm going to go average, left paren, and then I just drag over what cells I want to use, hit enter, and it gives me that. And I could do that same thing here, or if I just drag that formula over, I get the same value. A little formatting tip. If, say, you don't need these extra decimals and you just want to have it go out to one decimal place, I can come up here in the number tab and decrease the decimal places to just one. Okay, and then standard deviation. Typically, we're going to use the .s, which is a sample statistic, and so it's making some adjustments for the sample size being small. But same deal, I'm going to highlight the range, hit enter, and then I can grab that lower right-hand corner and just pull it over. All right, and then n, I can get with just establishing a count. So I just go equal. Actually, let's see. Let's put this over here. It would make more sense to be over here. So it's just going to count the number of cells that have something in it, basically. And so this way I know I have 12 participants. Okay, one other little handy function. If I want to count just certain kinds of things, I can do that as well. So if I want to figure out what my male n is and what my female n is, I can do that. Just FYI, you'll notice I have these right justified. Do I? I guess I don't. There we go. Have them right justified, so it pushes up against the edge here to tell me what's going on. You can mess around with this. I think it looks better than that or that. If it's right justified and it bleeds out of the cell, it'll bleed to the left. Okay, you know what? I just realized, for reasons that I will show in a second, I need a extra space in here, so let me put that in. Okay, so I've got my mean, standard deviation, I got my n here. How do you do the counting just a certain set? You can do it with Countif. So if I say Countif, and then I highlight the range, I maybe just want to count the number of, if I want to count the number of males, I'm going to highlight that range, and then here I'm going to set my criteria up to be 2 for male. I'll get that, and then if I want to count female, I can do Countif again, highlight the range, and now I'm going to specify I'm looking for just a 2 here, and I've got that. And then Make sure I did this right. All right. Um, Realized I had an error here, right? I used 2 twice. The second one, since I'm counting females, it needs to be a 1. So I'm going to change that. Um, all right, so now it checks out, right? 7 plus 4 is going to be 11, and I'm not right now counting non-binary, so I could put that on here to have a non-binary in equals count if the same range, comma, 3. All right, so now 7 plus 4 plus 1 adds up to 12, so everything checks out. Remember, you can check stuff. If you click on it, it shows you the range it's using, and it also shows you the formula to make sure it's accords with what you want it to count. And you saw that just happen there. If I accidentally add something to the formula or mess up, easiest thing to do, just hit escape, and it'll ignore that change that you did if you hadn't entered enter yet. Okay, so where am I? We got the next. Oh, we want to do a correlation. Another thing we can do. Let's see. I'll put it up here. Okay, so correlation looks for a certain pattern, and you need to have 2 arrays. So it's going to look for the relationship between this one and this one. Boom. So let me show you again how I'm doing that. I go equals correl and left paren, and then it's showing me I need 2 arrays. So I'm going to highlight the first array. And then the formatting, you can see there after array, there's a comma, right? So what I'm going to do is hit comma, and then it now means I'm looking for the second array, so I can highlight that. Boom. And now to close it, I can either put in a right paren or just hit enter. Either way will work. All right, so it's calculating that correlation statistic. Let's say I want to format that. I don't need all that specificity, just 2 decimals is enough. I might come in here and type correlation, and then I might, let's go ahead and right justify that. Maybe put an equal sign in here so it's clear what I'm doing. If I want to fuss with this, I could left justify that so it's reads better. But lots of different statistical functions you can do with Excel. And again, if I double click on it, it shows me the blue and pink areas, make sure I'm doing the right things. Okay, so the data filters and sorting, number 4 here. I'm going to come up for these different things. I'm going to go to my data tab, and I'm just going to put in a filter. And that gives me this little arrow thing that I can click on that gives me different options. One tip, for this to work right, you need to have a space between this table and anything else. That's why I inserted this extra space here. Otherwise, it confuses it and it starts sorting these things as well. Okay, so I'm going to come up here. Let's say I want to sort by gender. I just grab that and I say sort smallest to largest. Boom, I'm now sorting by gender. You'll notice the ID's in a different pattern. If I want to sort by class, I can just come over here and then ID, I can sort there. You can also do this thing, we'll work on this later, but you can say, okay, just show me ID number 1 or IDs that have number 1 in them. So if I get rid of that, it shows me everybody again. If I want to just look at females, I can come here and say, just show me the females. And you'll see how it changes over here. The blue numbering shows you that there's breaks where you're not seeing some data that are there. So you want to, before you're done, make sure you leave it back to select all. So it's showing everybody in your data set. Note the blue numbers are gone here on the side. Okay, so this is real handy. Just a data management tip. If you have an ID number that's in the order in which participants gave you data, then you can always reconstruct that after you've done some sorting and messing around. So it's very useful to make sure you have just a counting that goes from 1 to whatever in the first column, so you can always go back and sort on that to reestablish the original order that the data was in. Okay, so the next thing I wanted to show you was the selective search and replace. Let's say that, so right now I have gender designated with a number, which is fine, but let's say for whatever reason I want to actually have the designations female, male, and non-binary in there. So what I do is I highlight that, and then there's a way to do it up here with the menu, but I'm just going to go Control H is the quickest way to get there. H is in Henry. And I'm going to do 3 different search and replace. So first I'm going to search for a 1 and replace that with female. And just make sure you have this area highlighted. Otherwise, it's going to replace other random 1s in the data set that you don't want to mess with. Okay, so replace all. So it replaces 4. Okay, then I got that same range highlighted, right? I'm going to replace 2 with male. Oh, I didn't change it to 2, sorry. 2 needs to be male. Okay, and then I'm going to replace the 3 with the non-binary. Gosh, somehow I messed up again. 3 with non-binary. Okay. Okay, so that's one easy way to do that. Now, recognize that this messed up something else that you're going to need to adjust. So here, before I was looking for a certain number, right? 2s or 1s or 3s. So now I need to change the search criteria that my Countif is looking for. So instead of looking for 2, what I'm looking for now, I'm going to put it, you need to put it in quotes because it's that specific string of characters it's looking for. I'm looking for male. And here for 1, I'm not looking for 1 anymore. I'm looking for female. And then down here for non-binary, I'm not looking for 3, but I'm looking for non-B. And I need to put that in quotes for that to work right. All right, so just double check here. Make sure I've got everything set. I'm looking at the right ranges. I'm looking for, first of all, male, female, and then non-binary. I'm good. Okay, so that was the selective search and replace. Again, it's Control H. If you don't like the Control H, if you go to the Home tab, find and select, you can go to Replace, and you can do it that way as well. All right, next up, conditional formatting. Okay, so let's say for some reason I want to pay attention to people that got less than a 60 or less on the, or below, say below 60 on the test. So what I can do is conditionally format these cells. So from the Home tab, I come over here to Conditional Formatting, and I'm going to say Highlight Cell Rules, and I want it to highlight if it's less than a certain value. And let's say it's going to highlight if it's less than 60. So the default is this red, dark red text stuff. You can change this as you want, but that'll work fine for our purposes. And so I'm just going to leave it like that. And now you'll notice for anywhere in this range of test scores that I looked at, if someone scores below 60, it can flag that, and so those jump out at me. So that's really helpful for checking for errors, for checking for values that are out of a range that you're expecting, etc. That's called conditional formatting. Okay, and then the correlation formula, I think I already worked that for you right here. And I can also look at the uh, correlation with the graph. So let's do that. For this, I might need to move my big head. Let's go up here. Okay, so how do we graph something? Easiest thing to do is highlight what you're trying to graph. So I highlighted the labels and the values, right? And then I come in here to insert, and I'm going to select charts. I can look at the recommended charts, and I'll accept this first one. It's a scatter plot. So I can just click on that, and now it's going to dump this chart in here. Okay, so I'm going to come down here, just readjust it, and that's all it is. And then if these values change, this will change, but right now it's good to go. All I'm going to do now is just have you modify a few things. So one thing we might want to modify is add the title. So I can double click here. It's taking up too much space. And I'm going to call this correlation between test 1 and test 2. And then you'll notice I don't have any axis labels right now. So the chart elements is your friend in terms of adding different kinds of elements. So if I add that plus right there, I can add axis titles. And I'm going to come down here and make this test 1. And this over here is test 2. Okay, and then I might also want to modify the ranges here. So maybe I don't need to go down to 0 since nobody's in this space. So maybe I'm just going to have it go 40 to 40. So, all right, so if I click on the axis, right click, and then I say format axis, it gives me the values here that I can set for the lower and upper bounds. Let's put the minimum at 40, and we'll put the maximum at 100. And then let's do the same thing over here. So I highlight that, I right click, format major axis, and let's see, right click, format major axis. Okay, and then I'm going to make the minimum 40 and the maximum 100. Okay, for some reason it's insisting on a 90 there. Let me fix that. Okay, so I've got my axes changed slightly, and I can also highlight this whole thing if I want to. Oops. If I want to scrunch this down a little bit, I can do that too. And kind of reposition it like that. Lastly, if I want to put on the regression line, I can click there. I can right click and then add trend line. And I'll just go with the linear and just leave the defaults. And then I'm set. So I got test 1, test 2. The axis has been renumbered. Got a title, and just to remind you, when you're working with this stuff, the easy thing, or just realize chart elements lets you add different kinds of components to the graph. etc., etc. And then you can mess with the style and formatting and filter out certain values and whatever. We're not going to mess with that, but okay, so that was the last thing I wanted to show you, and that's it. Okay, thank you so much.